You know what my father used to say?
You want me to grab one out of the air? What he used to say?
He used to say to me, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Hi, this is Ryan from Cannabis.com, and I've had a little discussion about rescheduling versus unscheduling, and it has become a disturbing conversation. I don't know why in the past couple of weeks, had a couple of people that have been very insistent on petty insults. Now, I feel like maybe I contribute to that because, I don't compromise on my position, but I don't return petty insults. I just think that's a waste of time. I don't go there. If I have, I don't recall, and if I have, I'm sorry, but I think petty insults really distract from the actual meaning and the productive, ability to communicate, constructive ability to communicate. I think there's ways to go about things, and there's ways that are unreasonable, that shouldn't take part in civil discussion. But, it reminds me of when we were talking on the Normal Stash, and I got upset about this and actually kind of stopped posting at the Normal Stash after this. There was a discussion about Roger Christie and religious freedom back in December of 2010, and in fact, there was a couple people involved in that conversation who were pretty close to me, at least at one time, who I just removed on Facebook because I was tired of the bickering. These people were like atheist types that were giving a couple of Christian guys a hard time. One of the Christian guys, or one of the people that were in the religious discussion, is now a friend of mine on Facebook as of recently. I didn't know who this guy was back then. I didn't know that he, had been working on legalization and such. Oh, I got a little pimple or something right there. Anyway, but he's got some, plans and some things he's doing in the legalization front, at least decriminalization. I wouldn't call what he's doing legalization, but I just question this whole rescheduling versus unscheduling thing. He's calling for rescheduling. His petition is actually titled Rescheduling, and it says nothing about unscheduling, but he keeps getting mad at me and calling me a liar because I don't agree with rescheduling. And he says, well, you've lied and said that I'm calling for rescheduling when I'm not rescheduling. I'm like, yeah, but your petition is titled Reschedule Cannabis. What is it, why all these duplicities of meanings? I mean, and I guess, in that debate, the debate on Normal was stopped. The thread was shut down. There was a few insults sent this guy's way, the guy that I'm arguing with now, from the other side, from his opposition. And then the thread was shut down, and God, I was a little upset. I was like, geez, why are the people on Normal treating this guy this way? And then, lo and behold, here I get a barrage of petty insults sent my way from the same guy who I, back in 2010 was like, geez, what? Why are they picking on this guy? Why are they so mean to this guy? Why block the conversation? Why censor it or whatever by not allowing the conversation to continue? Well, now I feel like, blocking this conversation too, because now it's came down to him calling me Bozo the Clown, a moron, a possible DEA agent, and whatever else, just because I don't agree with rescheduling cannabis. No, I don't agree with rescheduling cannabis. What can I say? I'm not going to lie and say that's what I'm in favor of, because I'm not. It's not what I want. That's not what I signed up for when I wanted legalization. I don't want more restrictions. I don't want more penalties. And when I look at what's happened as far as rescheduling, and he says, in legal terms, rescheduling means something different than what I'm saying it means. Well, what I say it means is that you take it out of one schedule and you put it in another. To reschedule is to take out of one schedule and then schedule again, right? That's just basic English language, But in legal terms, he says it means something different. I don't agree. And this is my proof. If we want to talk about legal terms, let's talk about Oregon. Oregon filed a bill to reschedule, and they didn't get it unscheduled. They got it rescheduled. That was what their bill was about, is rescheduling. And so they took it out of Schedule 1 and they put it back in Schedule 2. So, I mean, if it means unscheduling, if rescheduling actually means unscheduling, I have not seen this. I have not seen evidence of this. Now, I've not offered this guy any insults, but he said that I've called him a liar because I disagree that his terminology of rescheduling means what he says it means. I just don't see any evidence of that. I'm not saying that he's a liar. I mean, I'm just looking for the proof. He's working on this in Iowa, and there's a rescheduling petition that has gotten some favor by the courts, but they have failed to reschedule it. And I'm just telling him that, what I am seeing from my point of view today, as of July 13th, 2011, when this does actually get accepted and processed in the courts, that the end result is the Board of Pharmacy is going to make it Schedule 2. That's what happened in Oregon. So if we base it on just, political analysm, we look at what has happened in the past in the same regard. What has happened in the past is rescheduling means rescheduling, meaning they take it out of one schedule and put it in another. And unless you call for something specific, unless you can say, okay, this is why we need to reschedule, and this is what schedule it should be in, and this is the reason it should be in that schedule, well then the Board of Pharmacy is going to make their own decision, and they're not going to give you the least restrictive policy. They're going to give you the most restrictive policy. They're not going to be like, oh, okay, you want us to reschedule it? Oh, how about we just take it off the Controlled Substances Act? You win. We're good. No. They're not going to take it off of Schedule 1 and put it in Schedule 5. They're not going to take it off Schedule 1, and they're certainly not going to go and remove it from the Controlled Substances Act, or Controlled Substances, list in Iowa. What they're going to do is they're going to take it out of Schedule 1, and they're going to put it in the next, schedule, Schedule 2, just like they did in Oregon. Now, I'm not saying I'm a prophet. I'm just saying that's my prediction. We'll see what happens. And if he proves me wrong by getting it unscheduled, meaning that it's not Schedule 2, 3, 4, or 5, I'll apologize, man. I'll fund a campaign, send him a box of, a bouquet of flowers. I don't know what he would want. I would definitely honor him if it was unscheduled. But that's not going to happen. I mean, come on. It doesn't take a genius to see what's going to happen. They're going to reschedule it. And like I've said about rescheduling, and this is something that I've put on my website, just yesterday I wrote this, the 12th of July, about a 26-year-old man who gets a 57-month prison sentence for a Schedule 2 drug. Right? Schedule 2 doesn't mean that you get lighter sentences or that it's actually legalized or that they can research it any more than they can if it's a Schedule 1. All right? And my logic is they've got 150 patents on cannabis right now. That means that they have already been researching it. So rescheduling doesn't mean they get to research it. They've researched it. They're continuing to research it, and they're continuing to patent it. In Oregon, this is from Lane County Chief Deputy District Attorney Patty Perlow. She says a Schedule 1 drug means that it has no medicinal value that is recognized. Said Lane County Chief Deputy District Attorney Patty Perlow. A Schedule 2 drug has recognized medicinal value but a high risk of abuse. Now we all know that cannabis doesn't have a high risk of abuse, right? It should be scheduled like any other herb you find in the herb store, meaning it should be unscheduled. There's no scheduling for ginseng or echinacea, right? And then we look at this guy, Donald J. Prescott, 26, North Augusta, was sentenced today in federal court to 57 months in prison for attempting to possess with intent to distribute Oxycontin. I can't ever pronounce that right. In March 2010, Prescott bought placebo Oxycontin tablets from government informant and then expressed interest in selling up to 500 additional pills. This transaction was monitored by local law enforcement agents and Prescott was taken into custody. Later result, 57 months in prison. Another guy in Oregon was sentenced to 12 years for Oxycontin for the same thing, possession with intent to distribute. Salem, Massachusetts, Carlo Espinoza of 63 Escott Street was given 148 months in prison, 3 years probation, and 500 hours of drug treatment, and must pay a $100 special assessment fee in lieu of a fine. Based on evidence, Mr. Espinoza was at the top of a pyramid, and indeed a lot of Oxycontin passed through his hands to a lot of others, says U.S. Judge Raya Zobo, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so, if you're trying to get medicine to patients, and, say they're too poor to go to the doctor, they need these meds, but they don't want to, pay all the fees of going to the doctor every 2 months, and, they don't have insurance, and, it's just too expensive for them. So you're trying to help these people out. You're trying to get them some medicine at a cheaper cost. And you're selling it kind of in a black market way, which is a lot of what, people in the marijuana industry do. Well, then you end up with 12 years in prison, and it's a Schedule II drug. It's a legal drug, but yet there's still criminal penalties for it. So I don't see any benefit to, the criminal aspect of it. I've got everybody in my house talking right now, but anyway, the idea that it would help patients get access to cannabis if it's rescheduled as Schedule II or something, this is wrong. This is absolutely incorrect. And this is why. Okay, every drug in Schedule 2 through 5 is manufactured by Big Pharma and sold by pharmacists, right? It's not sold in street corner dispensaries, mom and pop stores, herb stores, anything like that. No, it's manufactured by Big Pharma, it's sold by pharmacists that have a lot of money, that, it takes a lot to get into that industry. So it's going to be limited to those, stores, that access, and it's probably going to be more of a synthetic or more of a processed product. Because you don't see Big Pharma selling coca leaves, you don't see Big Pharma selling, poppy plants or anything. They sell processed meds. So that's what Schedule 2 through 5 is. So no, it's not going to increase access. Right now you're going to get about as much access as we're going to see in quite a long time to cannabis, because tens of millions of people have access to it, and currently cannabis is America's largest cash crop. So anyway, I say in my article, we are at a crossroads right now. We can either call for rescheduling, which gives the market exclusively to Big Pharma and licensed pharmacists, gets the backing of Big Pharma's money behind prohibition, restricts cannabis to a small few, which are patients, does nothing for industrial hemp cultivation in the USA. Or we can call for unscheduling, which 1. Liberates cannabis, 2. Opens up the free market, 3. Gives patients and consumers the safest access possible, 4. Allows everyone to benefit and participate in the cannabis industry, 5. Legalizes industrial hemp. Unscheduling is the way to go. Now, Carl says that what he is calling for is unscheduling, even though he's titled his petition rescheduling. I don't agree. I don't mean to insult him. I've got nothing personally against the guy. There's no problem that I have. There's no issue. In fact, I was very, offended when he was being treated poorly on the Normal Daily Audio Stash. But now I kind of understand what the disagreement is. I don't get, fully what it's all about, why Normal has such a problem with religious cannabis usage. It seems like a lot of times they do, but I can see why the argument got so hot now. Because, when I'm discussing something with Carl, it becomes a petty insult festival. And I don't offer petty insults in return. But I've been called a number of really childish grade school names. And so I just think there's better ways to have dialogue. Now, he agrees with rescheduling, obviously, or he wouldn't file a petition to get it rescheduled. I disagree with rescheduling. I used to want it because my dad had cancer, and I wanted them to be able to research cancer treatments with cannabis. But now that I realize that they've got 150 plus patents on cannabis, I know they can research it. Schedule 1 doesn't prevent them from researching it. You can't any less research it in Schedule 1 than Schedule 2. I don't know of any plant that has 150 patents on it yet. Maybe there is some, but I don't know of any. That's an insane amount of patents to have on a Schedule 1 plant that supposedly can't even be sold in a retail environment. I think that Big Pharma knows more than we know about this. I think they expect this to be rescheduled soon. The DEA back in November of 2010 said that they were thinking about rescheduling. Big Pharma has, adopted 150 patents plus on cannabis. So I think that it's inevitable. I think it's going to be rescheduled. I don't think Carl has to do a single thing to get it rescheduled. Oregon's already done it. Washington's calling for it. And the feds are looking to reschedule it. As far as the comment that I'm probably a DEA agent trying to block efforts to reschedule cannabis, think about it. I want it unscheduled. I want it completely removed from the Controlled Substances Act. If they do that, the DEA aren't going to have the same control over it as if it's a Schedule 2, 3, 4, or 5. If the DEA wants control, wants to keep their jobs, wants to keep their value, they're going to want it to be a Schedule 2, Schedule 3, Schedule 4, Schedule 5. They're going to want it rescheduled. Well, I don't want it rescheduled. I don't want them controlling my meds. I don't want to have to get their authorization. I don't want to have an RX number on my medication or on my cannabis or on my whatever, my sacrament. I want it to be free in the free market, to be sold like it is in an herb store. But that's not what the DEA wants. The DEA wants it to be rescheduled. That's why they've been talking about rescheduling it. I think that it limits access to patients. It raises the prices. The free market lowers the prices of cannabis. The regulated and restricted market raises the prices of cannabis. So I think that it's good for patients to be in the free market. I think it's good for consumers for it to be in the free market. I would like to, like I said, I'd like to buy it in an herb store. It's like any other herb that doesn't have any dangerous effects, like I say, echinacea, ginseng, St. John's wort, thyme, whatever. Anyway, that's all I got to say. I just have to set the record straight here. I'm just tired of arguing the point. If rescheduling actually means unscheduling, I guess this ruling in Iowa that's about to come out soon will tell us. My guess is that it's going to be rescheduled to Schedule 2. Carl doesn't think so, but we'll see.
Welcome back to Adam versus the Man. Just today we heard of a new bill being introduced in Congress to get the federal government almost completely out of the enforcement of marijuana laws, returning the power of that to the states. This bill was co-sponsored by Representative Ron Paul and Barney Frank. One Republican, one Democrat, and it has a number of co-sponsors, mostly Democrats now, but there are a lot of people excited about the potential that this represents. Joining me now to discuss this are Andrew Sharp of Young Americans for Liberty and Stacia Cosner with Students for Sensible Drug Policy. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. So this is pretty exciting. We're in the middle of the GOP presidential race ramping up. We've got Ron Paul taking a stand for the Constitution, being willing to reach across the aisle, differentiate himself, not that he really needed any help with that from the other Republican candidates, standing out to take this stand. Andrew, looking at the bigger picture here, do you think that this bill has a good chance right now? We've seen similar things in the past. We've seen different efforts. But at this time, with the momentum in the bigger political picture, does this have a chance?
If you mean a chance at passing, no.
Yes.
If you mean a chance at even getting a vote, no. But it is historical, and this is the first time ever that we've had a bill to fully legalize marijuana. And, that being said...
Well, it's not quite that, is it?
To fully leave it up to the states.
Well, it says that the federal government can still enforce on state lines, commerce, that there's some authority left over. I mean, a shred compared to what they have now, obviously.
Right, exactly. And, I mean, there is some, debate there over how far it goes. But basically, the 5 co-sponsors of this bill, as you said, 4 of them are Democrat and 1 of them is the Republican, Ron Paul, have taken a very courageous stand at doing this. And even if it only gets, 10 or 15 co-sponsors, 15 is the goal that the Marijuana Policy Project has for this year, getting 15 co-sponsors, that's huge. And that's huge that people are going to start talking about this. Now states that are trying to get similar measures can say, hey, there's a bill in the Congress that's doing the same thing. I mean, it is big for the direction of things. And there's a lot of other things going on right now that are sort of rallying around the same movement. And just to get this bill in there with 5 co-sponsors is actually a very, very big success.
All right, so Stacia, you're going to be pushing for this with Students for Sensible Drug Policy, but are you any more optimistic than Andrew is here?
I mean, I don't think it's going to pass tomorrow, but I do think that this is certainly a step in the right direction. This is a conversation that needs to be had, and it gives an opportunity for, you know, the public to voice their opinions about this issue to their elected officials and see what they say.
And at least force every member of Congress to take a stand, right? I mean, how many people do you think, how many members of Congress do you think you could reasonably expect to get on as co-sponsors to a bill like this? Like, it was just introduced, so there's only, is it only 5 right now? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that the goal stated by some of our allies at the Marijuana Policy Project of 15 is a good one. I think that's certainly attainable, and you know, I think that as more and more politicians will come out of the closet, so to say, with their support for, you know, marijuana legalization, you know, the less the fear is going to be that there will be negative political repercussions, and they'll be able to take that courage, you know, that their supporters and their constituents will be behind them if they vote the right way on this.
All right, so we know a lot of the old fogies in Congress might be, you know, prohibitionists that don't want to take the stand for the Constitution, which, by the way, was written on, what was it again? Hemp paper? Yeah, okay. So no wonder they don't want to take a stand for the Constitution or ending prohibition. But there's been some talk that this might be a negative thing for Ron Paul running for president, but we know that in presidential campaigns, so many people who get out and knock on doors and do the legwork and do the exciting, really visible things that get people excited about a candidacy are the youth. Is there anybody from our generation who's got that same prohibitionist streak? I mean, I've never... I mean, it's really rare to hear people under 30 advocating for marijuana to be illegal.
Right. It's hard to make that argument, and that's the important thing is for bills like this, is to make people try to make that argument and try to say that there should be a reason that we should have federal...
We want to tell you what you can and cannot put in your body, and expose it as that.
Exactly, and put them on the record as trying to make some, you know, one of my favorite arguments is, oh, well, we're, you know, this is going to make it easier for kids to get marijuana. No, it's easier now.
Yes, right. Since it's been illegal, it's easier to get than it was when it was legal. But anyway,
exactly.
Do you think this is going to be something that Ron Paul can use now to attract young activists to support the presidential campaign?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's not the first time that Ron Paul's taken a stance on drug policy issues. He's, you know, been an outspoken advocate against the failed war on drugs, and I think he's done a great job, you know, bringing that issue out into the public. I think that it will help him, you know. If young people turn out and vote in the numbers that we should, then I think that, you know, the policies will reflect that. I think that we can really get some serious marijuana law reforms, and if, you know, young people and students just get out there, get registered, and turn out in the polls like older generations do, then I think this has a really good chance.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
That was Stacia Cosner of Students for Sensible Drug Policy and Andrew Sharp with Young Americans for Liberty.